If you've ever had a Great Dane or a Rottweiler or really any of those amazing giant breed dogs in your life, you know they're just gentle giants. They're incredible. But there's a hidden risk that comes along with that incredible size, a danger that's actually tied to the very thing we love most about them. And that, right there, is the big question we're going to dig into. We're going to look at how that super fast growth, that really impressive size, can accidentally create the perfect storm for one of the most serious health problems they can face, a really aggressive bone cancer. Okay, so let's get right to it. The threat we are talking about here has a name: osteosarcoma. And trust me, understanding what causes it is absolutely the first step in trying to prevent it. And get this number: 85%. That's a huge number. We're not talking about some rare 1 in a million disease here. When cancer starts in the bone, this is by far the one we're up against, especially with our bigger dogs. This single sentence, this is everything. If you can get your head around this, you'll understand the whole story. It's basically a 3-part recipe for disaster. You've got rapid growth, physical stress, and a lack of hormones. So let's pull each of those pieces apart. So we can actually unpack that main idea into 4 really specific factors that all contribute to this disease. We're going to go through them one by one. And here they are. Now look, genetics definitely play a part, right? Some breeds are just more likely to get it. But we can't change a dog's DNA. So for our purposes here, we're going to focus on the things you, the owner, can actually do something about. And we're going to start with the biggest one. 3 to 4 times the risk. I mean, that is a massive increase. There was a major study on Rottweilers that showed neutering a big dog before they're even a year old just sends their risk through the roof. And the big question is, why? Why does that happen? Well, the data really tells the story, doesn't it? I mean, look at this chart. The risk for dogs that are neutered early just skyrockets compared to dogs that get to mature with all their hormones. It's not even close. So here's what's actually going on inside their bodies. Sex hormones, we're talking testosterone and estrogen, they're like the messengers that tell a dog's growth plates, okay, time to close up shop. That signal allows the bones to get really dense and strong, kind of like a solid oak tree. But if you take those hormones away too soon, the growth plates never get that stop signal. The bones just keep getting longer and longer, and you end up with a dog that's taller, sure, but its skeleton is structurally much weaker, more like a hollow reed than a sturdy oak. Now let's add the second big factor we can control: physical stress. And to get that, we need to talk about something called Wolff's Law. It sounds complicated, but it's a really simple idea. Your bones aren't just static. They're constantly rebuilding themselves based on the weight and stress they have to carry around. And this is where it all clicks into place. You've got that weaker, lankier skeleton from the early neutering, and now it's trying to carry the heavy body of a large breed puppy. Every single jump, every run, it creates these tiny little microfractures. So the body goes into overdrive trying to fix the damage, which means cells have to divide over and over and over again. And every time a cell divides, there's a tiny chance of a mistake, a mutation. The more cell divisions, the higher the odds that one of those mistakes could turn cancerous. Okay, so that's the science behind the problem. But here's the good news. Understanding what causes it gives us the power to do something about it. So let's switch gears and talk about solutions. Let's build your prevention toolkit. Here's your game plan, and it's actually beautifully simple. First thing, delay neutering. Let those hormones do their job and build a strong skeleton. The general advice is to wait until at least 18 to 24 months. Second, you want to manage their food to make sure they grow slow and steady. And third, support those growing bones with some specific supplements. So what does manage their diet even look like? Well, here's a super simple rule of thumb you can use. Forget that old idea that a chubby puppy is a healthy puppy. For these big breeds, lean is the goal. You should be able to feel the ribs pretty easily, but not necessarily see them sticking out. It's a simple check that can make a huge difference in reducing that physical stress we were talking about. All right, so all this prevention stuff is vital, but I want to take a second to talk to those of you who might be past the point of prevention. If you're already dealing with a diagnosis, there is another way to think about treatment, one that shifts the focus to a different but just as important goal. And this is a really big shift in perspective. When a cure just isn't realistic, what do? Well, the whole philosophy can change from trying to kill the cancer to instead managing it, with the number one goal being to give your dog the best, most comfortable quality of life possible. And this approach hits the problem from a bunch of different angles. It's about blocking the enzymes that actually dissolve the bone, because that's where most of the pain comes from. It's about essentially starving the cancer cells and helping the body slow down tumor growth. The goal isn't necessarily to become cancer-free, but to live longer with the cancer, and to do it without being in pain. All right, we have covered a ton of information, so let's boil it all down to the 3 biggest takeaways, the 3 rules you have to remember. If you walk away with nothing else, remember these 3 things. Rule number 1, hold off on neutering until they're done growing, ideally after 2 years old. Let those natural hormones build them a rock-solid skeleton. This is probably the most powerful choice you can make. Rule number 2, keep that puppy lean. Slow and steady wins the race here. Less weight means less stress and fewer of those tiny microfractures where all the trouble can start. And finally, rule number 3, support their bones with the right stuff. Be proactive. Give their body the building blocks it needs, like omega-3 and safflower seed, to keep those bones healthy for their entire life. Because in the end, that's what it all comes down to, right? You are the one in charge of these key factors. By understanding the why behind it all and making smart choices as they grow, you have a very real power to lower their risk and help your gentle giant live the longest, healthiest life possible.